Hi, welcome to the Louie File. I want to talk to you just for a moment here about 12 steps, 12-step programs. Actually, I just want to talk to you about one step, the first step in the 12-step program. There's lots of versions of 12-step programs out there. There's Christian-based, non-Christian-based. I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but the first step is usually admitting the problem. Say you're an alcoholic, you would say, I've got an alcohol problem. And then the second part of that is that you are powerless over it. You know, basically, I don't have it in front of me, but you get the point here. The point is, I have a problem, whatever the problem is, and I'm powerless over it. You know, and lots of people look at addicts, the world deems alcoholics and drug addicts, and they say, well, those people just need to, they need to come to understand that they're powerless. As if that very person saying that isn't powerless. I'm going to let you in on a secret. The reality is that all human beings are powerless, and they are designed from the beginning to be powerless. You see, God created mankind to be powerless in that He would be the power within. He would be the all in our nothing. That's so great. What a plan. What an awesome God. So I want to share just a few verses with you coming out of 2 Corinthians chapter 1, and then we're going to move to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. I'm not going to try not to make this any lengthier than it has to be. The first chapter of 2 Corinthians, the Apostle Paul is introducing himself as he normally does, and he starts talking about the God who comforts, the God of all comfort who comforts us in all our affliction. And he goes on to say that if I've been afflicted, it's for your comfort. If I've had comfort, it's for your comfort. So he's explaining to us that he sees all of life as being for others. No matter if it's good or bad in him, it's always meant to be for comfort in others. And he says, for we do not want you to be unaware, brethren, of our affliction which came to us in Asia, this is verse 8, that we were burdened excessively beyond our strength, so that we despaired even of life. And then 2 Corinthians 1 verse 9, whoa, this verse was a 1-2 punch to me one day, and I've never forgotten it. It says, indeed, we had the sentence of death within ourselves, so that we would not trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead. Oh my gosh. That's it, people. He says we had the sentence of death within ourselves, and then he has figured out the purpose of this sentence of death within himself. It's so that he would learn not to trust in himself, but rather to trust in God who raises the dead. See, that's the beginning of recognizing and acknowledging that you have no power within yourself. So if you jump over into 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, we read, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, so that the surpassing greatness of the power will be of God and not from ourselves. There it is. See, we have to come to a place where we start to see ourselves as a vessel. And we're not caught up with the vessel, we're caught up with the treasure that's within the vessel. See, the Apostle Paul said, Christ in you is the hope of glory. And that was his message throughout his life. Now, of course, he had all kinds of other insight and information that went along with that, but the core of his message was crucified with Christ, dead, buried, and raised back, joined to him. We the vessel, he the treasure within the vessel. So he goes on to say in 2 Corinthians 4, he says that though we have these light and momentary afflictions, they are working for us an eternal weight of glory. So he started to see no matter what happened in his life, whether it was shipwreck, beating, imprisonment, hunger, misunderstanding, I mean, it didn't matter what it was. He said it was a light and momentary affliction. You see, he was comparing it to eternity. And he said all of these outward, physical, temporary setbacks and pains and anguish and afflictions were all working for us. See, that's because we have to come to a place where we see ourselves as powerless. And the only way we tend to see ourselves as powerless is when the stuff hits the fan hard enough and long enough in our life. You know, I just got back from our local jail. And I just got through telling a room full of these men, and some of these men have been in and out of jail and prison a long, long time. And you can see it on their face. They know all the answers, but they haven't really come to the end of themselves. They go out of jail and back into jail. They go to the penitentiary, they go back to jail, they go to out of jail, they go to parole, they get on drugs, they go to rehab, they get busted, they get put back, and their life is a cycle of in and out of imprisonment. And I can see it written on their face. There's a hopelessness there, but yet they know the answers. They just simply have not truly caved. They haven't fully seen their powerlessness yet. They get out of jail and they think they can handle their life again. So they dabble in drugs and alcohol again. And they get popped. And they end up back in imprisonment again. So it's working for them. An eternal weight of glory. I'm convinced of that. So I just shared with them basically what I just shared with you. That we are powerless and we were meant to be powerless, and that Christ in us is our hope of glory, and that Christ in us is the power. So we learn to walk by Him and walk by His Spirit, and not by sight, not by feelings, not by our flesh. And we don't get distracted by all the stuff that seems to be falling apart in our life, because those things drive us into Christ. That's what God's after. He wants us to come to Him. But it all starts with admitting we have a problem and that we're powerless over it. Step one. I'm telling you, that's a big one. So I hope this helps you today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.